The wall was high, the night chill. Mutant crickets sang, unafraid of the intruder, providing a cover of sound that masked the inevitable noises of his ascent. Glossy foliage swayed against the wall in intermittent gusts, throwing speckled moon shadows that camouflaged the climber's motions. Nature was cooperative, but the mechanisms of man that lay ahead would not be kind. Jeff Font heaved his body to the top and lay flat against the lingering warmth of the stone. His chest labored, but he forced air through his nostrils steadily, smoothly, allowing his body to recover from the exertion. The wind cut into his eyes, bringing tears, for a moment carrying him to a time he had cried as a child for another reason, not so very far from this spot. But this was not the time for such memories. He had to slash away the hypocrisy that had destroyed 3 lives and elevated a usurper. The moon faded. Jeff's hand slid across the inner edge of the wall, finding the rope and its adhesive plastoid terminus. He worked it free, coiled it, and dropped it into the darkness ahead. He listened for the muffled impact and shivered in Earth's exterior climate. The moon returned, flooding the enclosed grounds and the mansion behind with its radiance. Jeff gathered his black fiber cloak, checked the 4 bulbs nestled in its fastened pockets, rolled over, and dropped the shorter distance to the inner garden. The wind whipped up his cloak and fingered his naked body as he fell. He hit the lawn and tumbled behind shaped shrubbery. The damp green odor of cut grass rose about him as he found the rope in the dark and set it against the wall. Then he began running. The incredibly opulent home of George McKissick loomed before him. In this light, a psychedelic skeleton of translucent timbers. Jeff dodged around the nude statuary, the woman-shaped pool, the suggestively curvaceous pathways and hedges, resenting the wasteful space they occupied in an overcrowded world, and the impact the symbols were having upon him. He tried to concentrate on the heat perceptor units he was sure were there, the subsonic emplacements, the night beams. One miscalculation, one distraction would expose him, and that would be his exit. He reached the house, again restraining his urgent breathing, and stood within its shadow. He had made it, unless McKissick had converted to silent alarms. But no, his informant had been positive on that score. Jeff had to assume that his precautions had been effective. There was no metal on his body, not even in his teeth, and he had studied the estate defenses intimately. A sound? He listened, far more anxious now that he was stationary than while he moved. A routine noise, carried by a freak of the wind. A sniffling, shuffling. The hounds. He had almost forgotten the hounds. The giant synthetics with bulb-like noses, steel-bone fangs, super canine speed. Watchdogs. Partly flesh, partly metal, mostly savagery. Electronic circuitry for nerves, computer cells for brains, and a taste for blood. Prickling uncomfortably, Jeff felt in a pocket for one of the soft bulbs. His thumb touched the circular cavity in its base. His fingers closed about its small mass. Moving as though there were no hurry, he nipped the spout with his teeth. A few drops squirted into his mouth, the quintessence of machine oil, man sweat, and fermented animal urine. He suppressed the gag reflex and spat the stuff out gently. It was intended for the canine droids, not humanoids. He aimed the nozzle at the ground and sprayed a tight little circle. He moved over and squirted a second, larger circle intersecting the first. Then, as the bulb gave out, he dropped it in the center. There was no certain technique to foil the hounds, but this was his best hope. He stepped back, spitting again. A shimmering above betrayed a balcony rail of glastic. He leapt for it, caught hold, and swung his body astride. He had performed similar maneuvers many times on Alpha 4, and the poor light was hardly a handicap. Glastic was transparent in varying degrees so that plants could grow beneath it, but it withstood stress as well as steel. McKissick's entire house seemed to be made of it.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.